Thank you, Chair. We're now live.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. This is the Combined Education Policy and Directions and Operations Policy and Planning Committee meeting. My name is Trustee Mabobi. I will be chairing the first half of this meeting. I'd like to open with our territorial acknowledgement. The Greater Victoria School District wishes to recognize and acknowledge the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. So the first thing on our agenda is approval of the agenda. The recommendation is that the March 4th, 2024 Combined Education Policy and Directions and Operations Policy and Planning Committee meeting agenda be approved. Can I please get a mover? Trustee Duncan, and a seconder, Trustee Gagnon.
Chair,
Oh,
I don't think
I apologize.
ed policy people can approve the agenda for OPPs, or am I off base there?
Sorry about that. We're just approving the ed policy portion of the agenda.
Thank you. I was mixed up.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee Duncan.
Yeah, just for clarity's sake, I know that these combined meetings, they only happen once in a while. So the voting members of Ed Policy will vote on approval of this portion of the agenda, and then we'll be voting members until we transfer over onto the OPS agenda. And again, just at standing committees, we only need one mover. We don't need a seconder at standing committees.
Apologies. Thank you so much, Trustee Duncan. So for clarification, the voting members of the ed policy agenda or of the ed policy portion of the meeting are myself, Trustee Bayo, Trustee Duncan, and Trustee David, who I believe is not here yet. So we'll start over. Can I please get a mover to approve the ed policy portion of the agenda? Trustee Duncan. All those in, or are there any amendments to the ed policy portion of the agenda? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the ed policy portion of the agenda, and that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees. So that brings us into the approval of the minutes from the February 5th, 2024 Education Policy and Directions Committee. Can I please get a mover for those minutes as well? I see Trustee Duncan's hand. And are there any amendments to those minutes? I don't see any hands. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Is there any business arising from the minutes? All right, that takes us to presentations to the committee. I'm going to pass it over to District Principal David Hovis.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good. Okay, I'm just going to share my slides. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, looks good, David.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. District Councillor Monique Moore and I are here this evening to share with you some of the work that is supporting mental health and wellness in SD61. Within all district departments, we continue to keep this goal central to our work. And district department's shared focus on priority students continues to align with aspects of the ministry's vision for student success and a guiding principle of student-centered learning. Tonight's presentation is from Goal 3 of the district strategic plan, which is to create an inclusive and culturally responsive learning environment that will support all learners' physical and well-being. Specifically, most of our focus will look at strategy 1 of goal 3, to continue to provide professional learning opportunities to all staff in K-12 to further support implementation of social emotional learning, physical literacy, and mental health literacy that improves outcomes for students in classrooms. We will share how we are actioning strategy 1 from goal 3 and some of the work noted in the Enhancing Learning report. As well, we'll speak to several new initiatives from our current 23-24 school year. Targeted funding for mental health and wellness comes from $48,000 from the district's operating budget, and another $48,000 comes from the Mental Health in Schools grant funded from the Ministry of Education and Childcare. As we look to data on how students are doing in SD61 with respect to their mental health, we can reflect on the BC Adolescent Health Survey. This survey, administered every 5 years, is developed and supported by McCreary Center Society. Areas of focus in the survey include, but are limited to, physical health, mental health and well-being, eating behaviors and body image, sexual health, substance use, school experience, and relationships and connection. In terms of school connectedness and sense of belonging, 52% of youth in SD61 strongly agreed that they felt like a part of their school community. 72% of students in SD61 felt that school staff expected them to do well in schools, and that's compared to 75% provincially. 64% of SD61 students felt safe at school compared to 63% provincially, and 53% of SD61 students felt happy to be at school compared to 52% provincially. McCreary noted that student connections to school was generally highest for grade 7 students. However, feelings that teachers cared about them decreased in the middle grades, but increased again in grade 12. Mental health is a key component of healthy youth development and can include psychological, social, and emotional well-being. The majority of SD61 youth, 60%, rated their mental health as good or excellent. However, 40% rated it fair or poor. Provincially, these figures are very similar to our districts. Overall, numbers have noted a decrease in positive mental health and ratings over the past decade, from 81% in 2013 to 73% in 2018 to 60% in 2023. Another important data set as we examine student mental health and well-being came from our student symposium. On January 11th, student representatives from all SD61 middle and high schools participated in the student symposium. Topics of discussion included SOGI, technology, cultural responsiveness, and mental health. When asked the question, what kind of actions do you think our schools could take to improve the mental health and well-being of students, some of the following themes and ideas emerged. As you can see by both the McCreary data and information from the student symposium, support for ongoing student mental health continues to be needed, and opportunities for teacher and staff professional development is essential. District Councillor Monique Moore is now going to share some ways we are actioning mental health and wellness supported for our students.
All right, good evening, everyone. So it's my pleasure to share with you some of the actions to date, and I know a couple of our trustees were at that student symposium, and you can recall the big energy that surrounded the topic of mental health and the passion our students bring to the topic. And it's my pleasure to share some of the actions and initiatives that we are currently working on and have been working on actually for a number of years with some of them. So we do know that physical and mental health literacy is an important foundation for all of our students. When our students are physically and emotionally well, they're more ready to engage with their learning. The following resources and initiatives correspond with our student feedback. The Second Step Social Emotional Learning Program is available to all K-8 classrooms in the district. It follows the CASTLE framework for social emotional learning with the focus on self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relational skills, and responsible decision-making. We currently have 179 classes engaged with this program. Mental health literacy is a grade 4 to 12 resource that supports our students in understanding their own mental health and how to access supports when needed. Elementary mental health literacy for grades 4 to 6 has just recently launched, and professional development opportunities have been provided to our school teams. EASE, everyday strategies, anxiety strategies for educators, is another resource that we have also targeted for implementation in our K-12 settings. Additionally, our school-based counselors have met 5 times over this year for professional development opportunities. This year, our priority focus has been sexual health education, eating disorders, family violence, and supporting our LGBTQ+ youth. Human Nature Counseling has offered the Guangbang program to Craigflower, Shoreline, Rock Heights, Esquimalt, and Spectrum over the last 6 years. This is a funding partnership between the Indigenous Education Department and Mental Health Department. The programming infuses experiential learning, community building, connection to nature, and psychoeducation, targeting enhancing social and emotional learning, self-regulation, and positive peer relationships. The programming aligns and supports the First Nations principles of learning and Indigenous ways of knowing. Counselors are experienced group facilitators who engage our children and youth in processes of self-reflection and growth through nature-based activities and by targeting children's passions. The long-term goals are to increase connectedness to self and to school. The district mental health team is also focused on the wellness of our colleagues in the work. The Ministry of Education and Childcare has created a 4-module workshop series focusing on compassionate learning communities within a trauma-informed practice. The modules were offered virtually to all K-12 staff in the district to support easy access. My colleague, Maureen von Tigerstrom, and myself co-facilitated the conversation on 4 key topics: understanding, relationship, connection, and capacity. The emphasis is on acknowledging the challenges within our work, understanding the impact of trauma, and increasing our capacity to address our own needs as well as the needs of our students in a trauma-informed, relationship-based practice. We're very excited. We have just launched this last week. We have 12 middle and secondary schools and 3 priority elementary schools that submitted proposals and have received approved funding for their own school-based mental health initiative. The grants are focused on student voice and meeting the needs of individual school initiatives that are connected to their school growth plans. Some of the highlighted topics are suicide education and prevention, increasing mental health literacy, access to community resources, guest speakers, and implementation and collaboration time for our educators. There will be a celebration on May 30th that we hope some of you will be in attendance, where our students will be able to share and showcase their mental health initiatives. Thank you.
Thanks, Monique. And finally, we want to share one more last initiative with you this evening. It's the grade 9 to 12 physical health and education teacher job embedded professional development. And as many of you may have heard in the past, the 2015 provincial curriculum brought together physical education and health education in order to develop all aspects of well-being and emphasize the connection between physical, intellectual, mental, sexual, and social health. The Ministry of Education and Childcare produced a guide in 2022 in response to the need for additional supports to teach these critical health topics with more confidence. High school educators in SD61 identified the need for ongoing professional development as they support the implementation of consent education and the physical health and education curriculum in classrooms. Therefore, each secondary school was provided funds this year to release teachers to work together to build their understanding of these topics and develop the confidence to teach them throughout the year. Through ongoing support of teacher leaders and in partnership with organizations like Island Sexual Health, our goal is that these important topics can be offered consistently across the district. In conclusion, we've shared just some of the highlights and initiatives of the strategies to support student mental health and wellness in SD61. This is incredibly important work, and we recognize all the educators and staffs in our schools who make a difference in the lives of students daily. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm wondering if there is time for questions. If anyone has any comments or questions right now would be the time. I see Trustee Duncan's hand.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all the work that you presented about tonight, and just to say thank you so much. This is such an important area of the work that you all do to support students in our school district and staff as well, to support their work and their practice. So thank you so much for everything you're doing. We would absolutely love to hear more about the students' initiatives around mental health in May. So hopefully if it could be, some of the details could be provided, we will most certainly send someone. We'd love to just hear and participate in any way. So thank you again. We really appreciate your work.
Thank you very much, Trustee Duncan, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Oh, I also see I see a couple more hands. First, I will go ahead. Our GVTA chair, Lena.
Hi there. Thanks for that presentation. Mental health for students obviously is so important, and teachers are so at the forefront of facilitating, or helping student belonging in the classrooms, in extracurricular events, in the hallways, wherever it is. The compassionate learning modules, it's so great that those were provided. Again, they were provided after school with teachers that are over capacity. And so I just want to reiterate the importance of trying to have opportunities like that happen within released time. And I'm glad that there was actually a released the last portion. I actually didn't know about that, so interesting. I didn't get the email about that, but I'm glad to hear that last part about that. But really important topic, and glad to see all the work that's being done on it. Thanks.
Thank you, Lena.
I also saw Trustee McNally's hand.
Sorry, my hand was just pointing at Lena, because it looked like we were going to move forward without
Thank you so
her
much.
question. Yeah, sorry.
Sure, we don't miss anybody. Thank you so much for that. Next, I'm going to pass it over to Associate Superintendent Arts.
Great. Thank you very much. And through the chair, I'm joined tonight by our District Vice Principal of Pathways and Partnerships, Lindsay Johnson, as well as the Vic High Careers team, Sam Spetter, the Career Center Coordinator, and Jessica McDermott, the Career Center Teacher. And they're going to do an overview of Pathways and Partnerships with a specific focus on some things happening at Vic High. So I'll turn it over to Vice Principal Lindsay Johnson to get started.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Lindsay Johnson, as Tom said, and I'm the District Vice Principal of Pathways and Partnerships. I'm really excited to share some of our work with all of you. And as Tom said, I'm very pleased to be co-presenting this evening with two wonderful educators from Vic High. You'll meet them a little bit later. That's Sam Spetter and Jessica McDermott. Now, while we only have time to share a small portion of the work our department does across K-12 schools through career education, as well as some specific work connected to Vic High and their career center, you will see the connections we make to move our strategic plan, our Enhancing Student Learning Report and our ministry goals forward. So I'm hoping, Andy, you can share our slides.
Okay, we should be sharing now, Lindsay.
Perfect, thank you. You can move to the next slide. Great, so we will be providing a sequential perspective of our district offerings in K-12 schools. We will highlight VICHI's amazing hairstylist program. You will hear what a day in the life of a Career Center team looks like, and I will finish with some further connections to the Enhancing Student Learning Report. Next slide, please. So these graphics will be familiar to you. Our work within Pathways and Partnerships supports student success through a focus on future orientation through career education. Every decision that we make is linked to the goals of our strategic plan and Enhancing Student Learning Report. We create inclusive and culturally responsive learning environments that support all learners' personal success, and we also focus specifically on Indigenous learners' personal and academic success. In our Enhancing Student Learning Report document, we have several focuses under the career development section, and these focuses, these goals and desired outcomes, they aim to move forward student engagement. This is through belonging and connection and therefore student success. The ministry's vision for student success mandates career education as one of the three main pillars of the educated citizen. And students leaving our district as educated citizens, it's supported through Pathways and Partnerships through individualized student planning, assisting with career education, curriculum development, program creation and delivery, work and post-secondary education connections, as well as enriched classroom experiences. Next slide, please. So at the district level, Bonnie Alexander, Kevin Blesick, and myself serve all students in our K-12 schools. Bonnie leads, develops, and supports career education initiatives for students and teachers at all of our elementary and middle schools. Kevin's focus is on student exploration, teacher support, and industry connections in the trades and ADST pathways from kindergarten all the way through to post-graduation. And my focus is on the district systems, structures, networks, partnerships, ministry directives, as well as supporting secondary schools in career education. And we pride ourselves on purposeful scope and sequence, starting with exposure to career education in elementary school, exploration in middle, experiences in high school or secondary, and employment in post-graduation. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to share a quick sequential overview of Pathways and Partnerships offerings from kindergarten through to post-graduation. In the Enhancing Student Learning Report under career education, one of our focuses is on improving the rates of experiential participation. So participating in opportunities in learning. And every year, a number of students accessed increases. And these numbers are through purposeful and sequential opportunities that enable students to have experiences that are linked to real-world opportunities and that enable them to learn who they are connected to their interests, their skills, and their values. So I will be highlighting just one career pathway this evening, the skilled trades. But the sequence is offered in other career pathways as well, such as business, health, technology, and others. So the pictures that you see here are elementary opportunities in skilled trades. So you'll see Kevin supporting a bird buffet project with our trades trailer at Northridge Elementary, tool trolley project builds at Oaklands, and a Guess My Job event at Cloverdale. Next slide, please. In middle school, skilled trades opportunities continue, but there's much more of a connection to community through these. So Camoson's Pipe Trades trailer visits all of our middle schools, and you'll see in this photo, it's at Colquitts. Our partners through Construction Foundation of British Columbia do a copper bracelet project, and you can see here it's happening at Shoreline. And we offered every grade 8 a tour at UVic and Camosun this year. As you know, what we always say is that you can't be what you can't see. So we like to bring students up on campus as early as possible. Next slide, please. So into secondary school experiences become much more pathway or career pathway connected through district programs such as our aviation program, technical training at Camosun College, such as these professional cooks, women in trades and technology events at Camosun College, and our district-wide career fair at Archie Browning Arena. Next slide, please. So finally, in the skilled trades, we support youth apprenticeships into the year after graduation. And this year, Kevin and our team has supported over 60 new youth apprentices. And this includes Casey, who's a heavy-duty mechanic apprentice, and Rachel and Caitlin, who are both electrical apprentices. We pride ourselves on ensuring that we provide equity and opportunity across all of our K-12 schools to build skills and confidence, broaden aspirations, challenge gender stereotypes, and increase motivation by connecting to students' future orientation. Next slide, please. So at the school level is the investment in our career center teams. So in most of our secondary schools, our schools are staffed with a half-time career center teacher and a 35-hour per week career center coordinator. These non-enrolling team members are the direct link between our school students and the post-secondary institutions, the local industries, businesses, and organizations that serve the students' needs. And their work is crucial to helping students to find their personal version of success through the individualized services they provide. And I wanted to share all of their faces with you this evening because they are such valuable members of our secondary schools. Next slide, please. So now I am thrilled to introduce two of these team members. So you're going to hear from Samantha Spetter, who is Vic High's Career Center Coordinator, and Jessica McDermott, who is Vic High's Career Center Teacher. And they are going to be sharing a school-based careers perspective. So take it away, Sam and Jess.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us this afternoon or this evening. I am Jessica McDermott, and I am a food studies teacher by trade, and I'm working half-time in the Career Center as the work experience 12 teacher and as the Career Center teacher.
Hi, I'm Sam Spetter. I am the Career Center Coordinator for Vic High, and I work 35 hours with students as they come into the Career Center. Okay.
Next slide, please. So I'm going to speak to this slide and just about the Vic High the Vic High hairstylist program. At Vic High, we have a technical training salon on campus. And this salon, there's courses that are available for grade 9 through 12 students. And in grade 11, students can, if they want to, they can opt into taking a industry recognized Red Seal hairstylist program. And through this program, I work with students through the work experience curriculum, where students are coached through understanding their rights as employees, as workers, the right to refuse unsafe work, some safety, hazard analysis. We connect to transferable skills. Students are able to do some volunteer work typically with salons to start with, and often this leads to paid employment. By the time students graduate from grade 12 in this program, they're about 2/3 of their way through the hours they need to become a Red Seal hairstylist. And some of the exciting things that happen in this salon includes some culturally sensitive and responsive innovations and evolutions. This year, the students have approached our teacher and innovated a salon where students who wear hijab and community members who wear hijab headscarves have been hosted in the salon in a culturally responsive way. And so this event happens once per semester, where community members are invited to a salon to experience services and enjoy that environment. Oh, next slide, please. We chose this image of a bridge to represent what we do in the Career Center because we tell students that our job is to help them build bridges to wherever they want to go out of our building. Okay, so we are helping students to figure out what is interesting and important to them and satisfying to them. And then we do the work of reflecting back to the students how we believe that they all have unlimited potential, and they are in exciting periods in their lives where they get to choose what they think is meaningful and important, and how we can help them build the bricks to get them across the bridge to their future destinations, into post-secondary, into the local community, and beyond. Next slide, please.
All right, a day in the life. This slide was supposed to represent a typical day in the Career Center, but each quarter is different from the next throughout the year. So we thought we would keep it to the big work. We support students through the speed wobbles of school life, graduation, timeline stress. Each student has unique goals, and with those goals come unique skills to deal with what's thrown at them. So each student has a different need for supports. Installing faith in students' abilities to do hard things. It's amazing what a student can do when you have expectations for them, and helping students envision their futures in the short-term, medium, and long-term goals. So we usually help the students quite a bit with their short-term goals, a little more hands-off with the medium goals, and they should have a little more practice and ability to do their long-term goals on their own. Next slide, please.
So we crafted this slide to kind of illustrate the dynamic flow of things that happen in the Career Center. This is a little image of our Career Center packed with students working on coursework. So these are numbers that are kind of like an estimate, and they flux. It's a really seasonal flow of activities that happen in the Career Center, depending on deadlines and depending on program opportunities that come up throughout the year. So at any given time, we typically have about 25 students enrolled in dual credit programs at UVic or Camosun. So these are courses that students are taking typically at UVic or Camosun, or from a UVic or Camosun instructor, where they're getting a high school and college or university credit for the same course. And so we meet one-on-one we meet as groups in grade-wide assemblies to promote these programs, and then typically one-on-one numerous times to fill in applications or answer questions students might have before wanting to sign up for a program. And then throughout the process of their coursework, sometimes students seek support, and we are there to give it when needed.
Okay. The Career Center comfortably has seating for 12 students working. We have students using the space for collaborative projects, language labs, independent coursework, and there's a lunchroom, among other things. We often provide support and encouragement, access to netbooks, printers, resources for exploration. Another service we provide is resume creation. Okay. Sometimes they are academic resumes for students working on post-secondary applications or scholarships, and they're often resumes for employment, for students looking for a job. Students may come into the Career Center with a resume already built, wanting feedback, or a student could have no prior employment, volunteer or connection with the community, but are wishing to seek a paying position. We try to meet the student where they're at and go from there, whether they're applying for a job or scholarship or volunteer experience.
I support students through their WEX coursework. That's Work Experience 12. That is a grade 12 elective course for students who have paid or volunteer ongoing work in the community. That is a self-paced full-year course where students get some little extra training and some in-depth understanding of some really smart questions and to ask when getting training at any given place of employment. Students are made really very aware of their right to refuse unsafe work and how to do so in a professional way. Students are also supported with trying to make some connections from their entry-level jobs they might be doing in high school to their long-term career goals. I get to have these great conversations with students where I ask them to imagine where they're going to be in 20 years and what it feels like and what kind of work they think is going to be interesting and exciting to do. And then we make some connections between the transferable skills that they're doing, working in a shop or working in a restaurant, and how these are baby steps to help increase their capacity and their confidence to get them to where they want to go.
We also have students participating in volunteer opportunities in the trades throughout the city. Students choose to be placed in these positions for career exploration or to connect with people with different pathways fulfilling requirements for dual credit post-secondary programs. We work really hard to make sure that the students have the tools to advocate for themselves in the work environment, knowledge about the industry and their hazards, and the companies. We work very hard to find companies who have the resources and passion for connecting youth with their chosen trade to make their placement a meaningful one. We also make sure that they have BC requirements like the WorkSafe or WorkSafe and insurance in place, and that the goals of the students are being met.
Kevin helps us so much with getting those kinds of trades placements. It's invaluable to have his help. Some other things we're doing these days, it is busy season when it comes to applying for post-secondary schools. So helping students through navigating all the different websites that they might need and how to submit transcripts and how to, find scholarship opportunities that meet their needs. These are questions that come into the Career Center all the time, but this is a busy season for that kind of task. No, I've lost us.
We often connect with students for info sessions in the Career Center. These can look like post-secondary information sessions with a recruiter from different universities from all over North America, and into New Zealand. And they come to Vic High to connect with students to help make them an informed decision whether post-secondary experience is what they need, and if that institution has the resources that the student may need. We also have district programs, springboards, in-depth looks into specific career paths for students. The info sessions often have somebody, if we're booking an information session for a specific career path, we try to have somebody currently working in the pathway that the student may be studying. We try to have somebody studying in that pathway and somebody teaching in the pathway so students can make an informed decision on whether it's something they wish to pursue as a long-term goal.
We also spend lots of time with students explaining and promoting the district programs, pathways and partnership programs. I'm sure you're aware there are just dozens of amazing opportunities students can participate in, and it really requires them to reach out and show a lot of initiative to take advantage of these programs, and they're just so diverse and so interesting. We rely a lot on Lindsay and Kevin to help us with the ins and outs of all of the requirements and timelines and the details for these programs.
Okay. One of the last things we want to talk about in the Career Center is I was given the opportunity to apply for a grant from iSpark to run weekly events to connect with Indigenous students, focusing on healthy choices around food and future pathway investigation. We connect with people supporting Indigenous youth in the community, giving students opportunity to connect with healthy resources outside the school. We also have Indigenous post-secondary recruiters come, connect with students, talking to them both in the Career Center and also taking them up to UVic and Camosun so the students can see themselves in that environment, helping them to be a little more successful and believing themselves a little bit more.
Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to speak to the image on the left. This is one of our Hair Foundations students, and this is Rayanne, and she is in grade 12. She's training to be a hairdresser is her short-term goal, and she's working in salons currently. She's getting paid. Her long-term goal, though, I think is really impressive too, is she wants to be a doctor. And so she has taken on this pathway as a way of financing her way through college and university. She's aware it is a very, very long path ahead, but she's going to have a trade that is going to be able to help, with her living expenses and all the other associated costs of going to college and university for such a very long time. So we're really proud of her for her long-term goals. But also she's a very talented hairstylist.
Okay, and I'm going to talk about Tiana. She is a student that came to connect with us in the middle of her grade 10 year. She connected on one of the 2 or 3 days that she would come to school per month and stated that she would like to apply for sponsorship to the Cooks Foundation program. My inside voice said no, but I try not to say that to students. So I outlined what she would need to do to be successful in creating an application, what our expectations would be. And some of those were connecting with a youth and family counselor once a week as a check-in, connecting in with myself once a week, attending every class every day, and then passing her classes that she was currently enrolled in. So she had to do a lot of catch up and then pass every other class we had scheduled for her before she would go up to Camosun. And she blew it out of the water. She did absolutely everything I asked her to do. She went from attending maybe once or twice a month with little to no support outside of school to being a fixture in the school, attending daily all of her classes, communicating with teachers. She would still get grumpy with them and choose to work in the Career Center, but she made it work. After she did all that for a year, so it was a long-term ask, we did sponsor her for the Cooks Foundation program. Lindsay was excited, happy to take a chance on her. And I was crossing my fingers, but she did amazingly. She ended up passing the whole program with 80% and is currently working to support herself. She's living independently. And her long-term goal now is to finish her Red Seal in Cooks Foundation and then take a teaching program so she can become a culinary teacher. So she has gone from her short-term goals with a lot of support from Victoria High School and the district, and then meeting her medium goals with support from Camosun and Women in Trades. Some of those supports look like funding for culinary tools. It's an expensive program. She had no way to fund it. So a lot of funding came from Women in Trades. And then now she is capable of funding her own long-term goal and is doing amazingly at it.
Next slide.
Lindsay?
Thank you so much, Sam and Jessica. I'm just so proud of the work that you do every day. And we're so grateful for the support that you provide Vic High students. So as you've heard, by designing individualized opportunities for students to feel that they belong and that they have purpose and they matter, the students will feel more engaged in their studies. And as you heard, this could be through work experience, workshops, visits to post-secondary campuses, and more. But what I want to quickly highlight is just dual credit opportunities and how that's connected to one of our goals in the Enhancing Student Learning report. And so that is to connect more priority students to dual credit courses in order to increase that participation in these types of opportunities. The reason that we see this as an important goal is because a Ministry of Education study actually concluded that dual credit students are 7% more likely than non-dual credit students to complete high school. Now, this percentage is even higher at 8% for Indigenous students and 9% for students with diverse abilities and disabilities. And further, this study concluded that dual credit participants are 16% more likely than their peers to transition to post-secondary. So clearly, dual credit has positive impacts. So continuing to forge those internal relationships with both school and district-based Indigenous and inclusive education teams, as well as our relationships with post-secondary partners, will enable us to support priority students' transitions into dual credit. And finally, these opportunities are crucial. And I know I've shared this data with you before, but I think this research is really important because it shows that students who participate in 4 or more career-related learning activities, dual credit or otherwise, are 25% less likely to become NEET after high school. And NEET stands for not in employment, education, or training. So the more students we can access, the more we can have a positive impact on their pathways before and after graduation. Next slide, please, Andy. Okay, so it's important that we actually truly understand if what we're doing is working. So we wanted to highlight a little bit of this through student voice. So we continue to add questions to the student learning surveys to gauge how connected our students are to our career center spaces. And the results were once again very positive and have actually even improved since the year before. So 89% of our grade 12s know where their career centers are located. And this has increased by a percentage from the year before. 87% of our grade 12s had participated in one or more opportunities through their career center. And this has actually increased from 3% the year before. This one's really pretty great. It's that 87% of the students surveyed actually said that they have a plan after high school. So again, they aren't going to be NEET. They have a plan, and that could be in employment, education, or trades training. And finally, 73% of the grade 12 surveyed plan to attend college or university after high school, which is important because we know that more doors are opened with post-secondary education. So this is strong data to support the outcomes coming out of the work that our district is doing around career pathway opportunities. And this type of data, regular and street data, are an important part of our learning reflection and our forward planning. All right, last slide, Andy. Thank you. So finally, our overarching message to students is always that the world needs you. So every student needs to feel and believe that the adults in their life and in their schools see them from a strength-based lens and wholeheartedly know that they will have a positive impact on our world. Our work within Pathways and Partnerships is always sending this message to students, both through district and, as you heard from Vic High's Career Center team, our school-based offerings. So we really appreciate your time this evening and are more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was especially cool to hear those student stories and see where our students are at. Does anybody have any? Oh, I already see a couple of hands going up. I'll pass it over to Nissa Tamel.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say a big thank you to the career teams. As a parent, as a professional, as an employer, as a community member, I see the impact of these programs, and just being able to, as you said, build the bridge between where the students are to where they can see themselves going is so empowering during a time which can be very uncertain and scary and stressful for students as they step away from what's known into what could be endless possibilities, but also potentially overwhelming. So thank you so much for your presentation and all the work you do. We know that there's some of our kids are difficult cases, but you hanging in there with them is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that today.
Really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I believe I also saw Trustee Painter's hand.
Thank you, Chair. I just took it down so I don't forget. To echo what Nissa said, I have seen firsthand through my own kids and their classmates just how important these programs are. And not anyone in particular. One of the things I think is so fantastic about Pathways and Partnerships is the breadth of opportunities that are provided, whether it's trades or post-secondary, everything along the way, just helping them make that transition. And I've often thought that one of the most important things we can do in education is to open doors for kids. They'll figure out which ones they want to walk through, but providing them with the breadth of opportunities, I think, is just critical and such an essential part of our system. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Painter.
And Trustee Kwan.
Thanks. I think I'm just repeating what others have said, but I just wanted to express my thanks as well for everything that you do in our schools. I know you're just one team of many schools that do the same thing. So even those that aren't here tonight, we appreciate you. Speaking both from my trustee hat and from my parent hat, it is really a truly amazing thing that we do for our students. I just had a quick question about how kind of these resources are shared. The hairstyling program is amazing. I mean, it's such a cool thing that Vic High can offer. And I just wondered, as far as, you know, other students in the district, is there a way to share that? Can others from the district come and take part of that? That was kind of my first question, and I'll just do the second one at the same time so that you have them both. But it's really around, I think you were talking about the grant that you got specifically for Indigenous students, and whether that's available for more than one, and do we do that in some of our other schools as well? So thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Jess and Sam, I'll take the first question, and then I'll let you speak to the grant, and then I can fill in behind if needed. So yeah, so we see our hairstylist program as a career pathway program within our district, and we enable there to be awareness of that program across our district. So we do have students from other schools who, if there was room, may transfer to Vic High to take the program, but it's actually just an afternoon program. So it's quite nice because students are able to stay in their home school in the morning and then transport themselves in the afternoon for the hairstylist program, which, you know, is helpful for a lot of students to maintain that connection to their home school. They can feel confident about that, and then they can be brave and head off to do the hairstylist program at Vic High and begin that pathway. So yes, it's definitely an awareness piece across our district. Thanks. Sam, do you want to speak to the grant?
Sure. One of the requirements for my job is to talk to absolutely everybody. I think everyone hides from me now. I always approach every adult. Hi, I'm Sam. I work at Victoria High School in the Career Center. What do you do? Because I want to hear everybody's path. And I was introduced to some people at iSpark and invited to apply for a grant there. I'm quite sure a few other schools, I know Esquimalt accesses this money as well. You apply for $1,000 grant. There's training involved. You spend 2 days in feel-good workshops. Like, they just pump you right up and really help you to understand Indigenous ways of knowings and culture and create connections. And then, so they give you basically 2 days of wonderful respite and recharging, and then they give you $1,000 to develop your own program. Career investigation is near and dear to my heart. I've always really loved it. So I developed a program where I connect with students. It started off with 2 or 3 coming the first year I did it, to 20, 25 kids coming some lunch hours now. We eat healthy food, so no pizza or anything like that. It's always a healthy lunch. And then we talk about what we see ourselves doing or opportunities in the community. Sometimes we will do things like go bowling. So finding a healthy task and do a lot of connection that way. We go up to different places of investigation for different jobs that kids want to explore. We just pick up the phone and go, okay, do we know somebody Indigenous in this field? Let's see what we can be. Things, because yeah, Lindsay always says you can't be what you can't see. So we try to find somebody else Indigenous living that pathway and connecting the students with them. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much again.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all of the presentations this evening. I don't believe that we have new business, unless anybody else have any business to move forward at this time. We also don't have notice of motion. So I'm actually going to pass it over to Chair Daniel for the operations policy and planning committee portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair Mabobi. Good evening, everybody. My name is Derek Gagnon. I am the chair of the Operations Policy and Planning Committee. The other voting members of this committee are trustees Duncan, Painter, and Kwan. So they will be voting while the others may be participating and asking questions as they see fit. If you're tracking the agenda at home, it's a little bit funky on how we're going to do it because there isn't actually a spot for me to approve the agenda, but I'm just going to ask for somebody to move to approve the agenda of the Operations Policy and Planning Committee. And I see Trustee Kwan. For my fellow trustees, that is items G through Q in the pack-up. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the agenda as presented, and that is unanimous. Thank you. Looking to see if there's any business arising from the minutes. Also seeing none, we will continue on, and that brings us to presentations to the committee, where we're going to be receiving a presentation on the violence prevention program from Cindy Romph and Taylor Wills. So I will turn it over to them.
Thank you very much. We would like to address the Honorable Songhees and Esquimalt Nations, the Honorable Métis Nation of Greater Victoria, the Honorable Upia Urban People's House Indigenous Advisory, as well as all stakeholders and esteemed school board trustees. My name is Cindy Romph, the second VP of the GVTA, and alongside me is Taylor Wills, the second VP of QP 947. We both are representatives of our respective unions on the District Occupational Health and Safety Committee, as well as the Violence Prevention Subgroup. We bring with us the voices and concerns of both educators and support staff. Our mission is to advocate for a safer and more conducive learning environment for students, teachers, EAs, and support staff alike.
Violence within our educational institution has far-reached consequences, especially on our dedicated staff. Teachers and education assistants face challenges creating positive learning environments due to the prevalence of violence. This affects our emotional and physical well-being. our job satisfaction, and overall ability to fulfill our roles. External factors have been significant contributions to the violence. Incidents of housing challenges, family instability, racism, lack of social services, mental health supports, historical events, and dealing with systemic global pandemics and global conflict.
Violent incidents disproportionately affect our youngest students, with statistics revealing a concerning prevalence in elementary schools. It is because of developmental age, challenges with social and emotional capabilities, among other complex factors. Simply, it is challenging for any child to verbalize their wants and needs. Some complex learners communicate with their behavior or present with externalizing behaviors. They are also new to school in general and often do not yet have the executive functioning skills to be successful in a typical classroom. While incidents occur at middle and secondary school levels, the reported numbers are comparatively lower due to the number of factors. However, regular exposure to violence harms students' well-being, academic performance, and creates a traumatic or unhealthy learning environment. Violence should not be an expectation of our job or in our learning communities. This, in turn, has long-term effects on the overall school and the community. The Violence Prevention Program subgroup formed a year ago strives to mitigate incidents by identifying gaps and proposing solutions or making recommendations. Comprising representatives of GVTA, CUPE 947, Human Resources, and the District Inclusion Team, this group has made great strides in improving reporting processes, communication, and is also trying to create a culture of care in our workplaces. We have created a linking bridge between HR for incidents of violence in the workplace and between the inclusive education team that helps support complex learners.
We are proud of the work that we have accomplished. So far, we've kept a keen continue to find ways to gap our policies and procedures and make recommendations for improvement. One of the biggest improvements we made so far is the Form 1s. Form work statement incidents. These forms are only used to report incidents, but also gives us vital information of statistics and data. They point us in the most important changes that need to occur to improve the learning environment for all students and the work environment for teachers in EA and the entire school community. We are also learning to remove the stigma of reporting violence and advocating for a compassionate care when it occurs and debrief and check-ins.
The data speaks for itself. We've gone from approximately 400 Form 1 submitted in 22-23 to 2,400 in the school year of our current school year 23-24 so far, which is a 500% increase. There is now widespread support for reporting incidents, as it is better believed that reporting creates a paper trail, which also leads to action. This is clear evidence that more workers are comfortable in filling out a Form 1, whereas before we knew incidents were happening, but workers were underreporting, thinking that there was no point and nothing would come of it. We are moving to encourage a culture of care for workers and students after an incident has occurred. This looks like a check-in with the worker and student separately, providing immediate support and encouraging medical attention if needed and wherever possible, time and space to fill out the appropriate WorkSafe BC forms. We want people to feel safe and know they can reach out for support.
Other improvements included working together with communication consistently with WorkSafe BC, the employer and unions and education staff, and on the rights of their work.
We are here to advocate and recommend urgent resources that are needed to create safer learning environments. This includes the crucial hiring of more behavior analysts and behavioral therapists. The roles of behavioral analysts and therapists in addressing and preventing violent incidences cannot be overstated. The behavior analyst works with the student and is able to come up with a specific and detailed plan to help make improvements in the classroom. A behavior therapist works with a student and school-based team to help implement that plan. We're also exploring ideas like mentorship training for school-based teams, kind of along the lines of the EA mentorship program, which also include the school counselors and school psychologists, itinerant mentor teachers, additional training for specialization for learning support teachers, professional development to improve the effectiveness of the teacher and EA relationship in the classroom, training and professional development that are specific for school-based teams.
The sustainability of educational assistance could be enhanced and additional resources are available to prevent burnout and create a safer workspace. There is no training now for teachers and education assistants that can effectively help them work together and support the little or no time available to collaborate. This is needed to explore this work relationship and more effectively support the students and potentially avoid incidents. We are recommending to have at least one EA in every primary class to better support students' social and emotional needs and ultimately foster a safer environment.
These proactive steps and further training will not only create a nurturing educational atmosphere, but also yield long-term benefits. It will lower costs associated with staffing such as medical leaves, unsafe work refusals, and workers' compensation board claims related to violence. These recommendations will also enhance trust with the employer, will cultivate resiliency, and in the long run, create a more stable, supportive, and equitable educational system.
In conclusion, as the data shows us, we need to be more supportive. We request increased resources, particularly hiring at least one more behavioral analyst, behavioral therapist, and EA for every primary class, K-12, K-3, the development and implement of mentorship programs for school-based teams, learning support teachers to meet the needs of our higher complex learners, and service training for CPI, trauma-informed training, training of cultural safety. This is all necessary for our staff. This could lead to the reduction of violence and violent incidents as we provide a better school environment and experience for all.
Our collective responsibility is to provide a safe and conducive environment for learning. We are grateful for the opportunity to address the school board, rights, and stakeholders today and trust that together we can work towards an equitable, brighter, violence-free future for our schools and community. Thank you.
Thank you to Taylor and Cindy. Do we have questions? We immediately do. Nissa, I recognize you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. My question, you acknowledge that there are more incidents in the primary and elementary grades than the middle school and high school age groups. And you acknowledge that that was because of the age and the developmental stage of the students. And I was wondering if you could speak to, because it sounded like you want to move proactively to put more supports in the classroom. If you have any data on if we're potentially looking at increased altercations or issues in the schools in the middle and high school age groups if we don't move to provide better supports in the elementary ages. Like, is there any data about if there's a knockdown effect or like this carrying forward as students don't receive supports early in their education? Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Chair, can I?
Yep.
Thank you. So through the chair, I think that's a term I'm supposed to use. I don't have the data on hand, but I can try to get some for you and I can email that to you.
Great, thank you. Before I get to Trustee Duncan, I'm going to turn it over to Jane Massey.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to give Cindy and Taylor a big shout out for that wonderful report. I love the collaboration of you two. I know how hard you both work on the committees that you're on together, and the report you just presented and all the recommendations were bang on, and I appreciate that, and I hope they're listened to make life better in the schools for students and staff and everybody that surrounds them. So thank you to both for all the work you've done and that you're continuing to do.
Thanks, Jane. Trustee Duncan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wondered if I could ask the presenters if you do have something written up, if you wouldn't mind forwarding that to us, that would be really, really helpful. And then my only other question really isn't for the presenters, so maybe I'll pause and just ask through the chair if there's anywhere else on the agenda where we could potentially just take advantage of the fact that we have our Director of Human Resources here this evening. And it might be helpful for folks to get a sense of what's happening through the Human Resource Department to help support in some of these areas. But don't want to put the Director on the spot. Just want to offer an opportunity if he does have anything that he wants to add to the conversation.
Director Knudsen, if you are willing to chime in, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the opportunity. Unfortunately, I had not had an opportunity to see in advance the presentation, so I'm not in the position to respond at this time.
Totally understand. Yeah, we'll bring it up on a different day. Lena, or is it Lena? I am not sure.
It's Lena, thanks. I just also wanted to thank our colleagues for their advocacy. The GVTA does regular school visits, especially we've been to every school just to talk to staff and see, you know, how things are going. And I will say that probably 60% approximately of the conversation has to do with these issues. The classrooms are more complex than they've ever been. And when I hear those numbers for the Form 1, 2,000 Form 1 increase, and that's only in 6 months. We're not even in a full school year. I think I have that math right. I mean, it's shocking. And even if teachers are, or educate everyone, QP and teachers are being told that they should do the Form 1 to create a paper trail, it's because it's so important. And the classrooms are, you know, there's just lots going on there. And when we're thinking about recruitment and retention of our education system, that's it's another thing to really consider. So hopefully we can work together to make this better. And thank you, Cindy and Taylor, for your presentation.
Thank you, Lena. Are there any other questions? Seeing none at this time, thank you again to Cindy and Taylor for the presentation. Very informative. And yeah, we look forward to receiving the write-up so we can cross-reference with our notes. I actually have to backtrack in the agenda because I never actually approved the minutes from the previous meeting. So item G1, approval of the minutes from the February 12th, 2024 Operations Policy and Planning Committee. Can I have a mover for that? Trustee Kwan, are there any amendments to the minutes from
February 12th, which can be found on pages 44 through 48 of the packet. Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes as presented. And that is unanimous. Great. I just muted myself. That was fun. That part is now complete. There is no superintendent's report this evening. I do not believe we have personnel items, which brings us to finance and legal affairs, where we get the monthly financial report for the month of February 2024. And for that, I will turn it over to the Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Chair. If you're looking at your agenda package, the monthly financial report for February is starts on page 49. And if we're looking at the figures that are included in this report, last February, we were able to run this report after month end, just the way that the timing of the March meeting fell. But it does reflect what was presented to the Ops Committee in March 2023. This year, because of the timing of the meeting, the report was run on February 29th, which was prior to month end. So not all of the month end entries will be in for February 2024. The budget, though, for both years should reflect the final budget or the amended annual budget, and then any changes that might have been made through to the end of February or to February 29th. And then actuals will reflect everything from July through to the end of February, so 8 months. If we look at the grand total of the revenue, which is on page 49, you can see the percentage columns, and this is the amount of revenue that we've budgeted that we have not yet received. And so we are looking at 37% this year, which is exactly the same as what it was last year this time. Moving down a few pages, if we go to page 52 and just look at the grand total for expenses, the percentage column for expenses represents the amount of expense budget that's still available to spend. So in the current year, we're at 41%, and the prior year was 40%. So pretty close to last year. This report is here for information. We're here if you have any questions that are outstanding. Thanks.
Any questions regarding the monthly financial report? Trustee Painter.
Thanks, Chair. I have a couple questions, so please feel free to halt me at any particular time to provide an opportunity for others. My first question is on page 50, operating expenditures. It's line 167, school assistance relief. And I note that while the availability of funds, the percentage is not inconsistent, I was surprised to see that our budget, our line item budget was about 4 times the size. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate on school assistance relief, like who exactly are we talking about here?
Secretary Treasurer, if you have that answer.
If I may, I'd like to pass that one over to the Associate Secretary Treasurer. She will have probably more details on that.
Through the chair, I believe we talked about this in previous board meetings. I believe it has to do with there were some long-term there are quite a few long-term sick leaves by EAs. So the school assistant relief is when an individual is brought in to cover a continuing individual's salary. So for example, if an EA goes on long-term sick leave and they're being paid for it, the replacement cost is then brought in and is charged to object code 167. There were also some additional staff members brought into IT, I believe, but then there were some vacancies covered. So it was an in and out. I believe that was for that one.
Thanks, Chair. If I could ask just a point of clarification.
Sure.
And thank you very much. I hope that I'll stop asking the same questions over and over again, but it sometimes takes a couple of tries to lock it in. I just wanted to confirm, this isn't one of those ones, a situation where the budget is adjusted depending on demand. This is, we locked down this amount at the start of the year and we're just working our way through it. It's not expanded in response to need or anything, is it?
Through the chair. Sorry, maybe, are you able to rephrase your question?
Sure. Well, I just noticed that when I look at last year's budget at 246,000 and this year's at 917,000, it's a fourfold increase. So I just wanted to confirm this was something that we were projecting out at the start of the year, and we made the adjustment knowing that there would likely be additional costs for that line item.
No, actually, this is one where we did an analysis of the expenditures in the 131 budget line item, and we just moved some of that budget down into 167. So although we weren't anticipating those expenditures, there was available budget in the 131 line item to cover those off. So between the two, we just balanced them out.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much. That helps a lot.
Trustee Kwan.
I'm happy to wait my turn if Trustee Painter has more questions.
Trustee Painter.
Thanks, Chair. Going to page 51, and I hope I didn't ask this one too. I know that leases declined from 109,000 to 21,000. So this is an expenditure, so it's a good thing, but what was are you able to advise us about what the changes were there?
Through the chair, so this was part of the $700 and something thousand savings that facilities was able to find last year. So they put pause on some of the lease renewals on some vehicles. So it was a one-time budget savings. So they're going to need to enter into new leases next year, but they were able to just hold off on some. So that's why you see the decrease in that line item.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that clarification. And then just take a moment to make sure I'm framing the question in a logical manner. Thanks. I'll hold off for now. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Associate Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Trustee Painter. Trustee Kwan.
Thank you. Again, I will apologize in advance if these questions have been asked before. They're probably sometimes it's just wrapping my head around it. So thank you for being patient with me. The first question I had was actually both at line 166 and 266 on the 382 extra staff salaries. I noticed we actually, and it's a good problem to have, I think, because we actually reduced budget and we still haven't spent as much towards that budget as we did last year. But I just wondered what the reason might be for that.
Through the chair, are you, sorry, I'm just looking at the amount that we've spent, the 233 compared to 191?
Yeah,
I think it was, if you look at the budget, so the 23-24 budget is 336,000, whereas last year's budget was 522,000. So 166 is a relatively new object code. We set it up just for some extra staff salaries. So bringing in, for example, extra summer work in grounds. They're not replacements, so they're not relief labor, but rather they're extra salaries, or if staff work overtime, their hours are charged there. So I believe we just, when we're working it out, trying to actually look at the historical spend on 165 versus 166, when preparing the budget, we would just look at the actual spend now that we kind of have a trend with that. So it looks like the budget was reduced in that area. And then the relief budget's a little up.
So it just looks like we're getting closer there where our budget was to actual what we actually spent last year. Okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you. One last question, if I may be so bold, Chair, is just along with actual instructional supplies, which is line 519, I believe. We all know how much instructional supplies are going up, exponentially every year, and so. Just looking at, the 2.5 million or so it increased, and yet we're still probably close to the same amount as last year. Was there anything new that went into that line item, or does that just encompass the additional cost that we're seeing of supplies?
Through the chair, so in the final budget, we had a available surplus of, I think, between 1.6 and 1.7 million to apply to next year's structural deficit. So that money is actually just parked in object code 519. So we pulled it out for the final budget, but we just leave it in for this purpose. So you'll see it's higher than it was last year because we weren't projecting any available surplus last year.
Trustee Painter.
Thank you, Chair. Taking this one in a slightly different direction. Not to put anyone on point, but it might be better for Director of Facilities. I was wondering about line 122 on page 50. This is custodian salaries. And I was noting that we've got an increase there. Looks like it's up 40,000 for the month. And I'm optimistic that this means that we're having some success with hiring. And I was wondering if there's any additional information in there.
Hi, through the chair. They always seem to be hiring, but the amount of people that are leaving are the same amount that they're hiring. So there is definitely a spare board, a group of spare boards. When they can't find replacements, they do kind of rob from the high schools because there's so many nighttime employees at the high schools to get elementaries clean. So they take a tact of cleaning elementaries and just prioritizing the work. So they are hiring. They're hiring again this week, and they were hiring last week. So it's an ongoing process for operations right now.
Just if I can just clarify, what I'm hearing then is that our numbers are fairly stable. If that's the case, I was just wondering why are our salaries up, or is this coming down to overtime because secondary staff are working more hours in elementary?
No, there wouldn't be overtime. I'd have to honestly look into it, Trustee Painter.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Associate Secretary Treasurer.
Through the chair, part of I believe the increase in custodial salaries is the board during the 23-24 budget deliberations added back some custodial time. And so that would be reflected in there, as well as wage increases.
I'm going to ask a question that I have asked basically every month since November. Line 561, water. We see not an expenditure, but revenue of over $33,000. Please explain. Associate Secretary Treasurer.
Through the chair. So that was the water leak at Lansdowne. We received a big bill for it, but our energy manager was successful in negotiating a reduction of that invoice. So that's part of the credit that was received that was applied against. So it looks like it's revenue, but it's just a reduction of our water bill.
I am happy to hear it after this multi-month saga. Any further questions regarding the monthly financial report? Seeing none, I'll turn it back over to the Secretary Treasurer for the budget change report for February.
Thank you, Chair. The budget change report starts right after the monthly financial report. So if you want to look at page 53, we can see the operating fund. Just a reminder that this report generally highlights all of the revenue and just the larger expense changes to the budget. February is kind of an odd month in that it's the month that we do the final budget. And so there's a couple of changes only on this particular sheet. The first one is near the top. It's the amended surplus appropriation. The number now is just under 1.7 million. In the previous version of this report, which was done in December, that number was 4.3 million. So it's gone down 2.6 million. Most of that, if you recall, we had kind of borrowed from our surplus to offset a cost of living allowance grant that we were expecting from the ministry. Hadn't been announced yet, so we couldn't build the revenue in. So we borrowed from surplus, so 2.3 million. And then the rest of the difference is just the difference with all of the final budget adjustments. So the 1.7 is the amount of prior year surplus that was used to balance the final budget. The next section changes amended budget. All of the many adjustments that Julie and team made for final budget are lumped into the one line item called amended annual budget changes to February 26, 2024. And you can see a revenue number of 6.8 million and an expense number of 4 million. And after this month, you'll start to see the individual items again. That's the only thing that has changed on that. On the next page, and I think there's several pages for the special purpose fund. The only item that was actually on the December report was the very top item, community link cost of living allowance for just over 25,000. Everything else that's listed on this report is something that was adjusted in February as part of the final budget adjustments. And so you'll see reference to adjustments, either decrease or increase use of deferred revenue. And so when we do the budget for like the annual budget, it's approved in April. And there's an estimate made of what the carry forward will be for all of the special purpose funds. And then now we're past year end and we knew what the actual carry forwards were. So that's part of some of the adjustments in these accounts. Some of them are new, so we didn't know about them when we created the annual budget, but we know about them now. And so they've been added in, both the revenue and the expense. We also have some adjustments to budgeted revenue. So we might have budgeted for it, but we didn't know exactly what the revenue is going to be. So there's been some adjustments to the revenue in the final budget. And then lastly, we've also made an estimate if any of the revenue will be unspent at the end of this year. So there's quite a combination of entries there. You're only seeing the changes, so you're not seeing what was previously there. I won't go through each of them, but we're happy to answer any questions that you have on those. I'll just pop over to the capital report first, and then we can open it up for questions. So capital is on page 57. And in the capital fund, we just see increases related to the interest income to the end of February. So for local capital, we've seen an increase of 2,000 since the last report in December. And for the ministry restricted capital, we've seen an increase of 13,000 since December. So happy to answer any questions that you might have on this particular report.
Questions in regards to the budget change report? Seeing none, thank you, Secretary Treasurer, for the information and for your presentation. And with that, unless I'm wrong, I turn it over to the Director of Facilities for the operations update for March of 2024.
Hi, everybody. I'm really hoping that my dogs don't bark while I report this. So quick update. For Oaklands, as everybody knows, we've submitted the costing to the ministry and we're now waiting for the approval to continue with that project. We submitted February 28th, we submitted a third of all schools water testing. So they're all completed, they all passed. So there's no lead in the water for the third of the schools that we needed to test. For the school protection program, we're doing yearly walkthroughs. So they're ongoing and they will be ongoing for about the next 2 months. And then for Eagle View and View Royal, the sprinkler repair was complete and the remediation is really close to complete. They're just finishing up some odd painting and getting the employees back in their spaces. And the childcare for Lake Hill, we're nearing completion. The mechanical should be done by the end of this week, and then soon the kitchen will go in, so it will start to look like an actual inside of a childcare. And for Hillcrest, the interior drywall is underway, and with the exterior siding complete. Sundance, we've spoken to the City of Victoria, and we're placing the portable from Willows over to Sundance spring break. So March 18th is the plan right now. And operations, they're piloting the new paper towel program to include 2 elementary schools and to get their feedback. Transportation, I don't know if anyone noticed it snowed today, so we're really hoping it stops snowing for tonight and there will be no problems in the morning. But what are they doing? They are the regular busing registrations opened. It closes on March 14th, and then on March 15th, the inclusive bus registration opens. And then communication networks, communication infrastructure, and security. They've actually established an alert system for all the security communication components. So they actually get the alert for the principals, actually notice the alert in the school now. So that's really good. So less principals are calling with security issues. Lots of prep still happening at Vic High and getting the security up and running at Vic High. The team is also finishing to install the tech packages. They've got the main floor and floor 2 left to go. And then climate change, the LED upgrades, the exterior lights are now just wrapping up this month. Brian is continuing with the continuous optimization and the estimated 101,000 kilowatt annual savings in electricity and gas once the projects are completed. Yeah, that's about it. Is there any questions? Lots of things going on.
Trustee Duncan.
I think I was actually behind Trustee Kwan, but thank you. But yeah, a millisecond is a millisecond. So I'll yield the floor to my colleague chair.
Trustee Kwan.
A millisecond is a millisecond. It doesn't bother me either way. But I have, first of all, just a comment and then a question. First of all, I just wanted to say, under operations, we're always seeing, these kinds of things like the paper towel program at 2 elementary schools to save money, to make work conditions better. We've seen this with a number of different things. We've seen it, with cleaning supplies. We know that, everyone's looking for ways to save and make us, environmentally better. And I want to call it also the financial department as well, because I know that they're looking for ways to save money on paper and that kind of thing too. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our team for those things, and I really do appreciate that. The second question I actually had for you was just a follow-up to the Esquimalt wood shop. I have heard that the kids there are still using hand tools, and I just wondered if that, kind of what the delay was there in getting back to using some of the larger tools.
The shop's up and functioning, so I think that might be a better question for the principal. So I'll ask that question, but the shop's up and functioning. Maybe Tom might know.
Sorry, through the chair, yeah, the shop is up and functioning. I'm not aware of machines not working. So we can follow up with the principal there.
Trustee Duncan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wondered if, Marnie, you could provide us a little bit of context. So we had a few questions around the portable move from Willows Elementary to Sundance. And I wonder if you could just provide a little bit of context around why we would be moving the portable from one school to another. I think the questions we've had are mainly just around costs and efficiencies, but I understand there's some good reasons why we might be doing that. Are you able to provide some context?
Yeah, I can provide what I can, and maybe senior leadership can fill in the blanks for me, please. So in my perspective, we're moving it because it's not needed right now at Willows, and it is needed for next year for the September start for another division at Sundance Elementary. So we'd have to move it in that case. There used to be a portable in place, and that portable was actually demolished just due to it wasn't healthy to use. So we demolished it and moved it completely off-site. And then this is a new one that will be moved from Willows over to Sundance.
Trustee Painter.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, I know that it's perhaps premature, but mindful that we had similar issues with exterior building repair requirements around SJ Burnside. And I was just wondering where we are in the process with that now that Oakland's is
Trustee
addressed to the
Painter?
next stage.
Oh, sorry, just Trustee Painter, just wanted to just remind you that that we're not going to speak about that publicly.
Well, I think we know that we're investigating. That's all I was looking for general.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just referring to anything around funding.
Oh, no, I didn't think we were there in any event.
No, for SJ Burnside, we still have the shoring up. We have not done any more than just completed the investigation of what's needed, and we have not started any type of costing report to submit to the ministry for approval. We actually fast-tracked, I guess you could say, and focused on Oakland's Elementary to get that funding cost report up to the ministry, over to the ministry.
Trustee Duncan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to back up just to see if Associate Superintendent Arts had anything that he could add in terms of context for the reasons that we're moving Wind Portable from Willows to Sundance.
Thank you. And through the chair, yes, the current portable at Willows is what's called a dry portable. And when we have been approved for funding for childcare will be a wet portable. So we will need to have that change. So as Facilities Director Marnie mentioned, moving it now, we will be able to use that at Sundance and then build the one that'll be appropriate for the childcare at Willows in the time that opens.
Thanks very much.
Any other questions regarding the operations update for March? Seeing none, turning it back over to the Director of Facilities for the Vic High seismic upgrade.
Thanks. Yeah, lots is happening. There's lots of district's employees right now working during the day. They're wrapping up things on site, like I mentioned, the tech package install and a number of electrical items. We still have trades under the construction manager, and they're wrapping up the deficiencies. So there are still some deficiencies that are going to have to occur once the students are on site, but they'll occur after school hours or on the weekends. The main reason for that is there's some that are waiting for materials. The move's still scheduled to start March 16th and will take about 6 days to complete. We've got a moving company helping us. And then we've got our own guys in there just disconnecting shelving and securing it on the other end. So we will be working the first week of spring break. I can't get those words out. And then the team's still working on closing out the budget revisions, and there's lots of change orders on the project to finalize the full budget. So I don't have the exact amount yet. Unfortunately, the construction manager, their main person, had some surgery and then had some complications with the surgery. So they're a little bit back delayed. Yeah, is there any questions? School's looking great though.
Questions about Vic High? Nissa.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just was reading down towards the bottom of the Vic High seismic upgrade additional project information. And I noted that it says that under the Appendix 2 risk analysis that there is provision in the capital spending project funding agreement with the ministry for additional funds to be provided against the risks in the event of increased costs. As we have seen increased costs on this project for a variety of reasons, can't think why we're renovating something. It's always going to cost more than we thought, at least in my house, it does. I'm wondering if we have any idea of when or how or that capital funding might be recouped from the province, and if that would have an impact on the district budgets for freeing up operational budget to address other maintenance issues.
So yes, I can answer that question. The risk reserves is for capital projects only, so we're not able to move the capital project money into operation or into an operating board funding. It's only for capital projects. So if we do have a little bit of money left, it goes into our capital reserve pot and just sits there for approval. In case of Vic High and in case of any of our major capital projects, we actually have to apply for the risk reserve. So the whole way along through the Vic High project, we have been reaching out to the ministry with different risk reserve requests. We've got certain buckets, if you will, that we can pull from, and we have they have approved all our risk reserve to date. So it's all completely within the district's bank accounts, I guess you can say.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions pertaining to the Vic High seismic upgrade? Seeing none, back over to the Director of Facilities for the Cedar Hill seismic replacement.
Yeah, it's coming along. So the general contractor is working on the forms right now. They're currently the north portion of the school. The forms are complete, and they're currently working on the south side is partially complete. So the steel has been ordered, and it's actually starting to arrive on site. So in April, you're going to start actually seeing a form of a building take place. So they're still working on the forms and the foundation. So it's going to start looking like a building pretty soon. Not quite yet, though. We're almost there. Any questions?
Trustee Kwan.
Just wanted to ask you a quick question about timeline. I know these things, don't always go to what we expect them to go. So just wondered if we were on track or whether we're a little bit behind. I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, no, so we just received a project schedule. There's a few delays on site, and we received a project schedule, and we are within schedule. Anything can happen over the next year and a half, so We're on schedule to date right now. How's that?
Trustee Painter.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a far more minor timeline one. On page 63, there's EPFA approved dates and updated dates. And I could not for the life of me, when I was reviewing the package, remember what CPFA stood for.
Where are you at?
Page 63, table 1, milestones and deliverables. Ministry approval through final completion. The first list is CPFA approved dates, July 2021, and then updated dates, or sorry, through to August 31st, 2025, updated dates to spring 2026. And it's the CPFA that I can't get my head around.
I think it's construction approval funding. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. I think I'm too tired. Construction approval fund, construction project funding approval, approved dates.
Oh, okay, thanks. Good job.
I'm guessing on that one. I'll just guess. If I'm wrong, someone will correct me, I'm certain, but that would be my guess this late at night.
I know in my day job, I'm so used to acronyms that if someone actually asked me what they are, it's like it would take a paragraph to explain because I couldn't think of the words. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I dislike acronyms.
Thank you for that. Trustee Duncan, I don't know if you were intending to provide clarification on that or not, but
It was a guess, Chair. I was going to guess capital project funding agreement.
Oh, there we go. That's a good one too.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm going to find out tomorrow and then I'll send everybody an email. How's that?
Sounds good.
Something similar.
Well, thank you for the presentations, and I look forward to the next update that we get when we'll, fingers crossed, still have students in Vic High.
This is my last one. There's going to be students in Vic High. We're done.
Like,
Tom's laughing at me.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah, I know. Don't jinx it quite yet.
Sorry.
Thank you to the Director of Facilities. We do not have in-camera items to disclose this evening. Looking to my colleagues to see if there is new business. Seeing nobody jumping up and down. Notice of motion. Again, fairly calm faces. General announcements. So with that, I come to Q in the agenda, which is looking for a motion to adjourn. Trustee Klein. All those in favor of adjournment? That is unanimous. Thank you all for attending tonight. See you all when